On January 9th, more information regarding the CallMeCarson situation came out from really an unknown source until now. Now, this is all not pertaining to the grooming allegations, imbalance of power usage, and literally a felony, but this had to do with Carson as a person and who he really is getting exposed. On January 7th, the narrator, a former friend of Carson's and a grassroots friend of his from the beginning, released a video on YouTube entitled My Experience with CallMeCarson. I did watch snippets of the video, but Twitter handle @I'mHuge3 summarizes the video very well and just makes making this video easier. The video is a whole expose on CallMeCarson's personality traits and flat out bad things about Carson. He begins the thread with, I'll try to summarize it, but it's pretty hard. Basically, narrator was a friend with Carson way before SMP Live or anything like that. As narrator Raccoon Eggs, a friend of the two, and Carson became closer friends, narrator decided to start a podcast, the Solitary Confinement Podcast. After many episodes of the podcast, there were no more uploads. Narrator didn't talk about why it ended or why him and Carson didn't talk until now, to try to be the bigger person. But he finally said something. Carson's character is a lot. The problem is he's the same way off stream, making it insanely hard to be able to work or have a genuine convo with him. Narrator used to have panic attacks and disorders that were able to put him in insane amounts of stress. Carson would ridicule him when these things occurred instead of helping in any way. This first part of what narrator says is how unsympathetic Carson is and how much of an asshole he really can be. I found it interesting that the narrator says Carson can't find the distinction between character and real life, which can be very dangerous for a content creator. Let's say someone like Jay Schlatt was the same exact person in real life as he was with this character. Basically, all of his friends would cut ties with him because they would think he's a racist, homophobic, etc. But we all know the name Jay Schlatt is a character and everything he says is taken as a joke or edgy humor. Carson is lucky he doesn't capitalize on, for example, edgy controversial humor, but it burns bridges in friendships when someone needs you to be genuine and real. @I'mHuge3 continues, something like this occurs when Josh, Altrive, Carson, Raccoon Eggs, and narrator all went to VidCon in 2018. This can also be seen on episode 24 of the Solitary Confinement Podcast. Okay, so I'll play a short clip of the Solitary Confinement Podcast on episode 24 to illustrate the narrator's point.
Narrator. All right. So let's lay this out, okay? First of all, my first question for you: are you still recording? That's the most important thing for us to let. You're still recording?
Yeah.
Tread carefully.
Oh, fuck you. Carson, go.
Can you share your screen so I can verify? I'm serious. I don't want to waste my time.
I told you. I'm still recording. Talk.
I don't know if I can trust you.
Talk.
All right. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Yeah, he's recording. It's fine. Just.
I don't know.
No. Just give him the.
Stop recording, Carson.
Just give him the benefit of the doubt. Go ahead.
Okay. So clearly there was a somewhat miscommunication amongst us. I think we can all agree Rack should probably answer some messages because that would allow miscommunication to not happen. Otherwise, though, I think there was a huge issue with the podcast episode that could have been fixed. But at the end of the day, not everyone on the podcast really wants it to be a video that's put up on the channel, and therefore I don't think we can justify putting it up.
Yeah, because at that point it's just polishing a turd, and I don't want to do it if I'm the one that has to fucking polish it.
What part? That's why I was saying send me the audio, you stupid fuck.
So we can hear narrator get really angry at this, get angry at Carson and Rack, and it really doesn't seem like he's responding as a joke like, oh my god, fuck you guys, and laughing afterwards. He seems genuinely upset that they scrapped the podcast and that they're not making it correctly. I didn't watch the entire podcast. I'm not 100% sure what's going on here, but just by listening to how narrator is reacting just shows me how it's disconnected and it's very one-sided. The thread goes on, but that is not even close to the worst that Carson did. When the SCP, Solitary Confinement Podcast, was still a thing, there hadn't been an upload for a long time. Narrator goes to Carson asking him to join and Rock to make another episode and trying to schedule when the next episode could be recorded. For some context before the next part, Carson would also hijack the SCP social medias, change the passwords to stop Rock or Narrator from getting in. Then Carson would post something that the other two didn't agree on posting. Carson would do this a lot. Getting back to the story, while Narrator's asking Carson about the next episode, Carson says he wants to kick Narrator from the podcast Narrator made. I mean, come on, you have no sympathy for the guy. He's been ride or die with you since the start, hasn't done anything to sabotage your career. What kind of slimy person do you have to be to do that? I've seen people in Narrator's comments contest the whole situation saying, well dude, he's just a ruthless businessman bro, capitalism bro, you know. No dude, these people don't understand. Just like I mentioned in my video on streamer houses a couple days back, I'll put a card up now and at the end of the video for that doing business involving finance with your friends is a tough thing to successfully do. I'm not saying all friends can't split finances because mature and smart people do it that way, take roommates for example, but warning signs that Carson is not a genuine person were there, and for me, I would have either had an intervention with him or leave to pursue my own success without someone who seemed disingenuous. I won't bore you with the rest of the thread, but I'll summarize the summary in that the last things he mentioned was how Carson would get on the Solitary Confinement podcast to just spread misinformation and personal information about the narrator to make people believe he was a bad person and subsequently remove him from his own company. I also want to talk about that because it is 100% not okay to take something someone else created and invited you on, might I add, call it your own and use that platform to deface and attempt to fraud them. That's not called being a businessman, that's called being an asshole. And to someone who cared about you and showed you nothing but support even when you began blowing up, just shows how on top of a manipulative fan groomer, CallMeCarson is just an asshole in general. Now, from a personal observation, I'm not taking words out of my ass here. It makes sense that he's a bad person to his friends. I mean that because if most, not all, of his housemates and friends he lived with at the lunch club cut ties immediately as soon as the situation arose with him grooming children, the fact nobody came to him and was in his corner defending him for whatever reason shows how people just need a reason to get away from a bad person they saw in their lives. Listen, I'm not going to say it sucks what happened because, to be frank, I'm glad. I'm glad that his friends are in better places without him, and I'm glad he's been completely removed from the internet in general. He was funny and all on stream and videos, but nobody knew his parallel to real life. That's enough for this one, guys. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, comment. It helps me out, helps me put out content sooner, and yeah, guys, peace.